And it continued to grow, and lots of dead bodies were in piles.
That's terrible to laugh over that. I'm sorry.
That's not great. A lot
that's
of people
not
died.
good.
I think.
We're laughing at your attitude too. So.
But finally died away. Over 2,000 people died during that. But
Over 2,000 only?
over
200,000.
200,000.
200,000.
2,000 would be a really small amount of people.
Yeah, London's a big city.
A lot of
Already.
people died.
That's a lot of people already. So.
And then in 1666, a fire started in a bakery, and
So don't be a bakery, okay? Unless you know how to control
has
fire.
to be careful.
Make sure not to be a bakery.
Yeah.
I've already started putting the towel. And it burnt down like.
How many?
It burnt. The fire was burning for about 3 days.
3
And
days.
It burnt down like 3/4 of London.
4/5 of London. How about that? I remember that.
3/5. I remember.
4/5.
Look at your notes.
I'm reading your notes better than you are.
Yeah, it's 4/5.
That's your own notes, man. Yeah.
4/5 of London was burnt down.
No longer people gonna laugh at you. I hear you.
And I wrote down the Thames.
Things.
Thames
Times.
River.
We were supposed to.
Times River.
Tomato,
I guess
tomato.
they used that to
Thames
Thames
River. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I wrote down.
Okay.
Terrible Black Death and a terrible fire.
Terrible fire.
Not a great time for
It's
London.
not a good time. Do you guys read the news I sent out about the falling down the wide Dover, the cliff? Nobody read it.
I didn't get a deal. Where'd you send it on?
Did you send it?
Send us through a message. I don't know why you guys' message doesn't work.
Okay, there's something
Everybody
weird
have
Yeah,
about.
that's on the Eden chat. They're not on that.
No, I sent to you first. Then I sent to the
Oh.
other guys. So look at this.
Also,
Look at this. Look at me show you. Huh? Where are you guys? There you go. See that? I sent to you first. So.
Huh.
Am I right? So
I'm
that's
not getting
four of
any
you
of that.
guys.
Oh, it's
So-
that. It's that one.
wait, can I see?
Wide cliff.
Am
I
on
didn't. I didn't get that.
Am I on there?
I don't know. No, here,
didn't get any.
Noah. Why don't you set up a that less like
Group chats are
study,
really,
like
simple.
study group,
Hey,
study chat.
email?
Huh?
Every time I respond to you,
Uh huh.
it says that something blocked my message.
Email?
Yeah,
How you know?
because it says this message has been blocked.
Sent to whom?
To you.
Oh, I just found it. Here it is.
To
Every time-
which name?
I got it.
Your
Says he got it.
other
He
email
got
that
it.
I usually send my essays to.
Kind of Gmail.
Yeah. Every time I send another
No.
message, it says this message has been blocked or something.
Uh,
last couple
in
times.
email.
Mhm.
That's not right.
I know. I don't know why.
I
Here we go.
didn't-
Now
I didn't
just made
block
us a new
you.
group.
I mean, I can receive your email, so.
Yeah, I don't know why it would say that.
So let's say hi first. So we need to set this up. Hi, can you see me now? Everybody?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, good. We're good. So hi, everybody. Say hi. Okay. Oh, there we go.
I
That's
know.
terrible. Why was it not
Mammy,
working?
you ruined it.
Okay. We're good. We're good. We're good. Look that.
There we go.
Well, these people just cheating, chatting there, doing nothing. So they're not interested in learning history. So we need Kayla to set an example to be a good student. Say hello to her.
Hello.
Morning, Kayla.
Yeah. Where's your cat? Let us see her or him.
I don't know if she has a cat or not.
She has a dog. That's
Oh,
right. I forgot. It's a funny dog.
That'd be a really sad cat in a house full of dogs.
Okay, we're going to start with chapter 13 now. It's only one session and called The Song King and Friends. Today I'm going to start reading to quiet my mind, to engage with you guys. So.
I'm not going to be able to read today because I'm going to have to listen. I have to help my Nana
Oh,
at her house, so I'm just going to have to be listening.
okay. That's fine. Yeah, I'm not going to have anybody read for me anyway. I'm going to read. Today is my reading day. Joking. Okay. So let's look at the map first. France so we turn from, still in Europe, we turn from England to France. So this interesting king actually impact also the idea for monarchy. I have some strange ideas about it, which is corrupt the king often does. But you see where France is? You know where France is, right? So, interesting enough, France is across that wide cliff, okay? Wide cliff, 20 some miles
So
away.
this is all land?
Mm-hmm. And
Or
then,
this is, oh yeah, this is.
The oceans
see-
are, the
you
oceans
see the
are-
land?
The oceans are dark.
You see that? You see that we're close, right? This part of it. That's where the wide cliff is. Okay, so it's where dangerous. You know, think about in Second World War time, where France was totally occupied by the Germans. They want to invade. That's where very short time they can just reach the other side. Right? So no wonder they build a heavy defense there. So making sense to you guys. So yeah, the radar to detect object closing somewhere, use radar, like bats. That's technology borrowed from bats. And the first one they set it up is where the whole world set it up. The first radar station is in that location at White Cliff. So England did it in detect whether there's ships, or I think those time more about ships, whether they're going to invade them or not. So a little bit defense history. So history were marred by wars and conflicts. Sometimes we need to know a little bit about those things. So am I, Esther? Mm-hmm. Okay, let me read. There's a song, King of France. It's a terrible king. Just like Henry VIII, most infamous kings across human history. So, but because intermingled with the Christians and intermingled with the Catholicism, some practice religion, they can become a forerunner, certain conflicts, certain concerns, forerunner for American Constitution. American Constitution said we need to separate the state from religion, right? So those arguments or grievances actually is starting from here because the bad kings have used their position, okay? So that's huge in human thoughts, in human construct of a society, okay, government. You got no interested, I'm very interested in that. So no one's super interested, don't show it. That's a joke. So okay, the Sun King of France. The wide walls of France's royal palace glowed in the warm afternoon sunshine. The King of France, Louis XIII, was deep in a meeting with his ministers. The Queen was writing letters in her boudoir. Servants scurried through the corridors. Upstairs, the nursery, one maid scrambled as the grand stains closes for the Dauphin, the heir to the throne. Another polished little boy's silver plated breakfast dishes. Down in the kitchen, the Dauphin's nurse was telling the cook to fix Flemish soup, egg yolks, beaten with wine, salt, then boiled, for Dauphin's dinner. So he grew up very much little bit privileged life, right? So he has been suffering from a slight cold and wanted him feed a proper invalid's supper. Outside, the little boy himself wandered through the gardens alone. He was barely 4 years old, but somehow he had managed to escape from the palace without anyone noticing. He found a stick on the ground. He poked in the grass along the path and he walked. Just ahead, a fountain bubbled down into a wide basin. The little boy bent over it, stirring the water with his stick. He leaned a little further over his foot, slipped. He fell into water that was over his head. If a passing peasant hadn't heard the sound of his splashes or hauled him out, the Dauphin would have been drowned. A terrible, terrible disaster. That would be good if he really drowned.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it caused a lot of bad things, So. Anyway, Elijah, read on. So that's going to start. You see the French king. Get your book.
Oh, sorry.
Where is it?
Right.
You see the French king claimed to be the owner of the country he ruled.
This right. I mean, I don't really know where it is.
Let me see. Okay. You guys evidently don't follow my reading. That's fine, but it's very discouraging. So
I was unable to keep
there you go.
going.
The third paragraph.
You see, the French king claimed to be the owner of the country he ruled. If the French called their king a visible divinity,
The reason why they mentioned that. Okay, so visible. This is where the idea for divine rule came from. Okay, divine authority in kingship came from, which is a corrupted one. You need to know that, especially when you learn the Bible, the right ones. The devil always good, the soul counterfeit, and man is corrupt God's endowment. So it's a perfect example. So go ahead.
God's representative on earth. So while Charles II struggled to keep his throne, Louis
The
the
14th. I'm sorry.
Louis XIV ruled without opposition. His father and his father's minister, Cardinal Richelieu, had made France into the most powerful into one of the most powerful nations in Europe.
We need to remember that name. What's the name? Cardinal.
Richelieu.
Last time we talked about the England have different setup, am I right? They don't want chancellors. They normally have a cardinal acting the way like a primer. Okay, so
What's
like
the
a
name?
chancellor. Cardinal Richelieu. Richelieu actually called. Richelieu. That's I think in the story called The Three Musketeers. Have you guys read that story or watched that movie?
Thanks.
Okay, there's the evil cardinal, that's his. Richelieu, the evil guy. We're back.
So who
No,
is he?
really.
Had made France into one of the most powerful nations in Europe. And Louis XIV was the most powerful man in this powerful nation.
Remember Charles II came from
Wait,
France, right?
who was Cardinal again?
Cardinal Richelieu,
Who is he? He's
he's a chancellor,
a chancellor. Okay.
like a chancellor, like a primer to the king, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
While he was still young, Louis' advisor, Cardinal Mazarin,
Mazarin.
ruled for him.
So there's a passing on different order. You can see that's why they claim, because they are Catholic. Literally Catholic rule the nation. So the king is just like on the throne, right? More like a puppet.
Mazarin had been trained by Richelieu to rule with a ruthless and strict hand, demanding that every French citizen obey the word of the king without question. He continually reminded Louis that the king should be treated almost like a god.
Which is kind of similar setup, but it's not explicit like this. It's in the human history, in the Bible especially. A king, a ruler treated like a god.
Like Pharaoh.
Pharaoh, what else? What else?
There were certain emperors in the Chinese culture where that was the case.
Yeah, that's not really. So they
Son
don't
of
treat
heaven.
like a god. So
No.
yeah, they never actually consider themselves to be gods. So that's different Chinese rulers. So, but they are, also the command is final.
Well, just like the
So,
book is saying, like a representation or son of God.
Exactly,
Just kind of that
representation. This is a similar concept. But who is literally considered himself as a god? Pharaoh did that, am I? Pharaoh
Oh,
was
yeah.
considered. Who else considers himself as a god? how about the Roman empires, right? They all
Oh yeah,
call
they,
emperor worship.
Caesar.
Right? Exactly. So that caused grievances to Christians. It's interesting, how things turn around. So go ahead.
When Marathin died, Louis announced that he would now be rule absolutely, without a council of advisors. He would be his own first minister.
That's the name, first minister, which is a different cardinal is used to assume.
His ministers were astounded. No French king had ever ruled without advisors for almost 100 years, and no one believed that this elegant young man, skilled at dancing and court life, would be an effective ruler. But Louis himself knew that what he wanted. In his
Memoirs. How does
Memoirs.
Memoirs? Okay.
he later wrote, "In my heart I prefer fame above all else, even life itself."
He's a wing guy, right?
For the next 50 years, Louis ruled as absolute king of France.
The word absolute means absolutely sovereign, absolutely authority, power, basically. So words like that nature can mean different things. This context is absolute means the sole one, the final one, the sovereign one. Go ahead.
Why am I here?
You work all day long.
Louis ruled. He worked all day long, every day, wielding an absolute control over every part of his reign. He chose the sun as an emblem to represent his power,
Oh, that's why he called the Sun King. I never know that. Go ahead.
and was called the Sun King by his courtiers. Only a nobleman of high rank was allowed to dry him after he had a bath. Other aristocrats fought over the privilege of handing Louis his shirt and pants as he dressed. Louis thought that
Now you understand tradition where it came from. It's bad tradition, right? Have
Wait,
a,
what? What is
Have
it?
a servants basically.
Oh.
Yeah.
Louis thought that this was a very proper relationship for a king to have with his subjects. In a letter he wrote to his son, he wrote, "Letting your people lay down in the law to you is the worst calamity that a man of our rank can suffer. When the people try to take our power for themselves, the more you grant them, and the more they want. The more favors you give them, the more favors you give them, the more contempt they feel for you. And the ones who want power the most are always the stupidest." Sun King needed a palace worthy.
What's
his
wrong with
greatness.
this statement there? Some comments from you guys? It's the first, is he's a noble character? Who think like this? And even they venture to teach his son, right? Only evil people do that, right? So, by the way, who taught him this kind of stuff? The course he was with, but the most important, his spiritual guidance, right? Which the cardinals he grew up with, right? So, to enforce that, not necessarily the book didn't encourage that, but think about this cardinal. They're supposed to be religious leader of a nation, right? Representing God, literally representing God, more in a more needed position than the king himself. So they taught the king a evil scheme or evils. It's terrible, right? A misrepresentation of God's way towards people. And those kind of misleadership, misrepresentation of God's names, ways, caused serious damage to the culture. That's why later on the French Revolution break out, because people see the hypocrisy, the grievances they had, right? So we can see when we have a place of authority power, we learn from history. The simple lesson here is that the more you have the power, the more you need to know it's not to serve yourself, right? So rather give you opportunity to serve others. The second is that to rule a nation, to deal with uncanny characters in those environments, required a certain justice, wisdoms. The Bible gives us a good character like a David, like a Solomon, like a Moses, others. They're in a position dealing with all kinds of unfavorable characters, and right? Making sense to you? Even David had to deal with his own sons of nature. But it never really discouraged them or distract them from walking in righteousness, in goodness, and right? Their relation with God, their position to assume, they assumed for God's people, never was seriously damaged or corrupted, and right? So now, however, this kind of king, this kind of counselor, is quite the opposite what God wants them to be, am I right? So, why this is important? Because this kind of discrepancies, this kind of misrepresentation, is the worst source where American Constitution today. And a lot of bad things begin to happen. One man's follies later on become a whole reason for the generation of bloodshed. So, God, from a history, you continue to learn, you will see things happen don't just pop up nowhere. So always a source of failure. The source of failure oftentimes is a simple, terrible character. Or simple ways is just assume that I don't really think about, and especially when they're claiming the name of the Lord about those things, it just become very, very dangerous. When it becomes dangerous for two reasons. First is for our own self. We're not decent, honest, truthful to God's ways. We lie to ourselves, lie in the name of God. The most important thing is that God holds those people accountable. And when those people commit such a sin, the consequences are so dire, So look at Louis, look at the bad king in England, what is it? Henry VIII, right? So their whole family almost is wiped out. It means the family is wiped out. More than their reputation through history is a bad one. But they literally cost the ones they want to protect, they want to secure, they want to love, and there's such a damage being done to their families. So now as you're young, you don't think along those terms, but when you become a national leader, become one you're going to be looking forward to your coming generations, what kind of mother, father you will be, what kind of grandfather, grandmother you're going to be. Your ways, you may think, I just did that, doesn't really cost much. But might not try to scare you at all, but just saying that if you sow the things good, the coming generation, others will reap a great good things, and right? So wonderful things. But if we sow corruption, especially in the name of the Lord, God hold more than yourself accountable, almost in the generations come, going to, unless some dramatic change can happen, dramatic remedy happen, you can see the damage being done. Sometimes it's pretty scary, So, but the human historians or they only concentrate on the in and out. They don't necessarily put God in the center of things, right? So they only see the reasons, the cause and effect things through a natural lens of thinking, but we need to look beyond that. This is one of the major lessons you can learn from history. So learn from corrupted ways, bad characters, then dramatic, tragic things happen in history. So we look at that. Well, that is so ugly and so unwelcome in life. Where it came from, I need to study it, rather than just, that's not a happy story, I don't want to think about it, So that's happened, let me concentrate on good things. That's not necessarily a balance, the wise approach. So life is not that easy. Life has disheartening things unseverable to us. You either you're going to balance that out, put it before the Lord, put in your heart to say that whole kind from God's grace, from God's wisdom, handle those things, or just shun away, treat as if it doesn't exist. There's this bird. I think in English, guys know. When danger comes, to dig a hole in the sand and bury his head in it. What is that?
It seems kind of related to an emu, but I don't think that's what it is. What
I
is
don't
it?
know, some kind of bird.
Ostrich?
Ostrich, yeah.
Ostrich.
When danger comes, it's like, they hide away as if the huge body is still outside, right? So a perfect picture of a certain kind of attitudes, so dealing with life. In that, Esther 1, and you pray for us. You want to learn history lesson, this is a real history lesson you can learn. So,
Father, I thank you for this day, and I thank you for this time we get to spend together. I thank you for Elaine and Emmanuel teaching us, taking time out of their day to help us teach us good things and your ways. Father, I pray that we would just not hide ourselves from things that we may not want, but just do what you want us to. I thank you for your love for us and care. I pray that you would bless each person in this room and help us to follow your ways. I pray that you would continue to teach us of you, and I pray these things in your name. Amen.
I want to bring back to the word called Louis Rule, the absolute king of France. Thank you. And there is a statement based on, I think, most like from a historical wisdom or human wisdom. It's not really absolutely true, but it considers as a motto for man. The word, I want you to write it down, think about it, okay? Someday when we finish all history lesson, we might write things on that card to use the lesson you learned, the character you learned from history to expound on it. So the statement is, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So the word repeated, absolute. So the English author in this history here talking about the absolute king. His mind is at least subconsciously thinking about the corruption of absolute power. And so now that absolute power, absolute authority, you need to understand wise monarchy or godly given monarchy is always through council, through a group, a safe, nobody really want to hold the power just at your own hands, don't share with anybody. Because wise ones knows even you give the absolute authority power, and that authority power need to be exercised in a corporate way, in a balanced way. You need to share. So in a sense, God's rule look like a monarchy, look like there's absolute authority behind things, but actually his design is he have a council, even in the heavenly place have a council. So it's a kind of a democracy, literally a real democracy. It's not fractured partitionism kind of democracy. It's a wisdom democracy, wise council kind of democracy. But it's very hard to make that happen unless everybody's heart is changed, am I? Unless God is the one who truly all wise, all capable, and all willing, loving, so those kind of things. I just wanted you to look at those pictures because of fractures man's idea, the experiences, oftentimes try to dictate to us, influence us, okay, democracy is the best. Really, democracy is not necessarily always the best, right? So democracy can be, when practiced by the wrong kind of people, wrong kind of heart, can be bad, So, or somebody said a monarchy is good, aristocracy is good. This kind of things. Well, it depends on the people. Okay? You have an evil king like Louis, he will do evil things, But you have a wise king like David, he will do good things. So, anyway, that is something I wanted to continue. The statement is called absolute power corrupt absolutely. Why? Because it's true, most of the part being true, verified through human experiences. Why? Because the man of fallen nature, so man is corrupted nature. Therefore, people like Louis or Henry VIII inherited greed, authority, power from the past. They really don't care the common people or the cause of God, really worried about. They oftentimes just literally become pictures this matter. And this is when you in the Western world, Western history, when you think about these statements like absolute power corrupt absolutely, the first list of people will be this kind of people. So I use the opportunity to draw out that, So England, we can see Charles II did the same thing, right? So again, cause great havoc to the nation. So here's another nation, France. In this time is Christianity or Christianity, and with it the political system, really began to expose its hypocrisy, its negative side, and many corruptions. And there's a good reason, because the whole system was corrupted, and with unsayable, ungodly character like the cardinals, like the kings, shaped the Western culture in profound way later on. Literally, the most people said, we don't want that ever come back to our society again. So begin the downturn. Later on began every struggle, every breakthrough you can see is to try to bring some remedy, some correction to this corrupted ways. Okay, so you in the days to come, when you visit the new development history, you found many things happened. The root cause, drive, is the people said, I don't want that time to repeat in my life, or for the coming generations. So anyway, so go ahead. Who is reading now?
I've been
I want the Esther continue to read.
I think it was the Sun King needed a palace.
Yeah. Well, learn things sometimes can be a little bit serious, sometimes can be light. This one is a very bad occurrences in history. Some good lesson, witty it is, serious it is, but it's a good lesson to learn. I'm sorry to dampen your spirit things, but it's not fault. A lot of tragic things happen out of this. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to find where
The Sun King indeed needed a palace worthy of greatness. That's what we're saying. The Sun King needed a palace worthy of his greatness.
Okay. So Louis, is that the 13th?
The 14th.
14th.
Yeah.
14th decided to build a huge new house at Versailles.
You say Versailles.
Versailles.
You might want to write that down. That's yeah.
How you spell Versailles?
Versailles.
It's
We are
Mm-hmm.
SEILLES.
Weird French.
Versailles?
No, just Versailles.
Versailles.
Where a tiny hunting lodge stood. After almost 50 years of labor, this
Okay.
tiny hunting lodge had been transformed into an enormous place, a quarter of a mile long.
Canals.
Canals?
is deep human constructed
Canal.
channeled like a river course. Yeah.
Canals were dug to bring water from the river and to drain the marshland. Versailles was full of elaborate rooms like the famous Hall of Mirrors, where 17 huge mirrors stood across from 17 large windows, and the saloon of Apollo, where a solid silver throne stood.
Tell me, who is Apollo, Esther? Apollo is the sun god, right? Literally the Greek god of sun. Sun god. So why that's called Apollo? Because he considers himself like a sun god, am I? Sun king, sun. Oh, there you go. It's actually talk about it later on, so go ahead.
Hundreds of statues of Greek gods such as Apollo, Jupiter, and Neptune stood in the gardens. Each god had Lewis's face. Every night, thousands of candles lit the palace into brilliance for balls, concerts, and floating parades held on the Grand Canal
Canal.
It's okay.
that ran through the grounds.
So this guy is totally self-engrossed, am I right? So seriously problem, eh? I don't know that. So, I know he's famous, but I don't know that bad.
To increase his power, Louis brought his noblemen to Versailles to live. He forced them to pay attention to court manners. The noblemen and women spent all of their time trying to please the king, rather than planning revolt.
You know, Noah, you read the book called The War and Peace. That's where it came from. Those kind of things, you know, Salome, sort of manner, the king. You know, you had to get access to the king. You know,
Yeah.
so it's all from this poor guy. It's terrible character. Yeah, go ahead.
Noblemen would do whatever Louis asked.
Oh, famous story. Do you know how the chair came from? Certain chairs sit down, sitting like a throne, like a sofa. You know where that design came from? It's from this guy. He hired a carpenter to design a throne for him, and the carpenter designed the throne like that. So the carpenter began to sell. Everybody wanted one. So, you know, so become a.
Cool.
Yeah, then become a business. You know, was the other time I used to tell Noah certain things is so simple, so basic, but you don't know how it decided the cultures. You know how Japanese people sit together, fellowship, how Arab people sit together. They're totally different cultures. They don't have chairs, so they eat meat totally differently. A different way to interact with them, right? So you see the Arab people. You go to a chieftain or the tribal leader. He's lying there, you know, in the tent, right? So Japanese people is kneel down before this flag, right? Like that. So they're different culture, basically. Interesting. So, but the Westerners, when they developed tables and chairs, a whole set of customs began to play and defined so much about human relationships. For example. You go to the dinner table, instantly what you say? You imagine you're going to sit with chair, around the table, right? You don't think otherwise, Not the stove, not the Arab can. There's come with it huge impact of human relationships. And that's all started with one. Who guy? Started with one? One corrupt king. He decided the culture norm for your Western world, but we don't even know it. So I'm just saying. So. Go ahead.
If it meant that they would receive a sign of his favor, permission to wear clothing reserved for the king's favorites, a position standing a little closer to the front of the throne room, or a more ornate chair at a royal dinner.
Oh, seriously? He just said that. Okay. I have no idea. I didn't read this. Go ahead.
The Duke de Simon.
Yeah, we might want to pass on to Naomi. Let's her read. Let's torture her a little bit.
Who lived in Versailles for many years. Versailles. Wrote that Louis also encourages noblemen to spend money in order to make them more loyal. The king loves splendor, magnificence, and profusion.
What does profusion mean?
In all things.
Somebody tell me what profusion means.
I don't know.
I think just like a
Over.
kind of a spreading out in a sense. So like his spending and his licentiousness passed overwhelmed all things.
That's like that word licentiousness.
Is it Duke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Duck. The
Duck?
duck.
Duck.
I don't know.
I don't know.
The duck, man.
The
I think
Duke-
it's Duke.
The
The
Duke
duck.
remarked and encouraged
The duck.
encouraged
The duck
similar
remark.
tastes in his court. To spend money freely on feasting and at cards was a sure way to gain his favor.
Cars is a gambling business, right?
Yeah.
So,
Perhaps to obtain the honor of a word from him by making expensive habits the fashion and for people in a certain position.
there you go. Fashion business started this guy as well. It's crazy, huh? Think about it, huh?
Yeah.
Salon culture, we call it salon, that's all from him. This is a guy is a terrible influence over Western culture. Mm.
In a certain position, necessity, as he compelled in his quarters to live beyond
Courtiers is
courtiers.
somebody attending in the court. Okay, so
to live beyond their income and gradually reduce them to depend on his bounty for the means of substance.
that's terrible, huh? Live beyond the measures and he give them money to sustain them to earn the loyalty. How trickery is that?
The Sun King spent most of his reign fighting wars to expand France's borders. During Louis's reign, France became the largest and most important nation in Europe. But in the last years of Louis's life, his army began to falter. Other European nations joined together to oppose the ambitious French king. France lost some of its new territory, and then Louis's son, the Dauphin,
Yeah, you can
Dolphin.
call him dolphin if you want. A dolphin, so that's perfect for you.
died suddenly of smallpox. I was about to say Dolphin. Louis didn't mourn too much. He disliked his son, who was sulky and self-absorbed. He feared nothing more. He feared nothing more in this world than to become a king. The Dolphin's aunt remarked tartly, "He was frightfully lazy. Could sit the whole long day on a bed."
Okay, let's move on with Noah. We've seen some of them. So is this a dolphin, the beginning dolphin, the little boy in the garden?
Mm-mm.
Same
No,
guy?
the beginning Dauphin was Louis,
His father.
14th, but
Oh,
this
okay.
Dauphin is Louis's son.
What dolphin mean then?
Dolphin's
The
kind of
name.
like Prince.
Prince? Okay, yeah,
think so.
the ear, I guess.
Oh,
Huh?
yeah.
Air, yeah.
Mhm. It's interesting wording. I never heard.
Yeah.
Of that. Yeah.
With the Dauphin's death, Louis's grandson became the new heir to the French crown. But not long after, the grandson's wife, a cheerful, affectionate girl whom Louis XIV loved like a daughter, began to complain of a toothache. She didn't have a toothache, she had the measles. After a week of illness, she died. Only a few days later, her husband died as well. Then one of Louis's grandsons fell from a horse and was killed. Faced with so many catastrophes, Louis himself began to grow ill. One day, he went hunting and came back looking exhausted, complaining about pain in his left leg. His doctors told him nothing was wrong. But the doctors had missed an infection growing below Louis's knee. In just a few days, Louis was suffering from gangrene. When he died, his only remaining grandson, a sickly 5-year-old, inherited the throne of France. The Sun King had made himself a god on earth, but he also had made a great mistake. He had made himself powerful by forcing the common people of France to pay heavy taxes to support his wars and his lavish palaces. French peasants and craftsmen had labored for decades to build Versailles. One French aristocrat remarked that the hard work and swampy climate was so bad for the workmen that dead bodies of peasants had to be removed every morning.
Wow.
Thousands and thousands of Frenchmen had died in Louis's unending wars. And throughout the French countryside, anger was growing. Anger which would eventually destroy the French crown forever.
Wow. So he saw the seed discordant, right? So.
Yep.
So in the latter part of all the tragedy, what do you think? What do you guys think about it? Any thoughts on that?
It's just kind of interesting on how our culture and others, America even, mostly is just what it's been built upon and stuff, or what the kind of
Yeah.
behind culture is. It's
Yeah.
interesting to see.
Hugely influenced by French, British for sure. So
Yep.
yeah. Oops. I think this is worth one a little bit review. Esther, you'd like to do the review?
Sure.
Okay.
So,
So now we can relax. You're welcome to stretch your arm. Stretch.
I'm afraid I might
stretch your
get
legs.
poked.
Huh?
might get poked.
Yeah. I'm not touching you.
So, dolphins with,
Dolphins.
dolphins, I guess, is what he was called.
Yeah.
named.
It's
Yeah.
not his name.
What?
It was Lewis.
Yeah. He almost drowned at 4.
Mm-hmm.
But someone saved him. And he had done that not long after his father died.
Mm-hmm. How old he was when he became a king? Did he see it? Age of what? Age of 4 and 8 months, right? 4
He
years,
was
8
4
months.
when he became king.
Mm-hmm. Age 4 years and 8 months. That's terrible little boy.
Yep.
I don't know, man. He
And-
barely learned to walk and speak, man. So,
The French called their king a visible
Divinity.
Divinity.
I don't know what to say.
Divinity.
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 Um,
The word adjective is a divine, am I? Divine, something divine.
that's what they called the king. And Cardinal Richelieu.
Chill.
This is a father minister, Richelieu.
Richelieu was a French citizen, and he had taught Cardinal Mazarin like to be, while Louis was still young,
Mm-hmm.
he helped rule.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Louis came of the age to be able to rule on his own,
No, that's
was-
after the guy died.
yeah, it was
actually.
after
Mhm.
Mazarin died.
Mhm.
He became his own first minister and was the absolute ruler.
Mhm.
And Louis really wanted just fame.
Mm.
And for 50 years, Louis ruled king of England.
Of
Wait.
England?
No.
Okay.
Wait, was it England?
Oh, we're talking about Francis.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm England.
That's because me mess you up. I mention England all the time. Mm-hmm.
And he was very powerful. But he was not a good king. He was evil and selfish.
Why he called the sun down? Sun King. So, because he made the sun as his emblem, right? So. Mhm.
Yeah.
Then he built the palace in where?
He built the palace.
In Versailles, right? So,
Oh yeah,
mm.
Versailles.
Yep.
Mhm.
Then his son, Louis's son, died of smallpox, but
Oh no, did he die smallpox? I'm not so sure.
yeah,
Yep,
I think so.
Okay.
he did.
What was the wife?
She died of not a toothache.
Missiles, right? Some missiles.
Wait, was that his wife or was that the wife of his
Son
grandson?
of the wife.
Wife of his
Oh, the
grandson.
wife, grandson.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I messed
and
it
like
up. Mhm.
wife of his grandson and a few other people died, which made Louis ill because of all that was happening. when Lewis died, he had
Hey, our coffee's here, man.
his last grandson at 5 became king of France.
Okay. Today I'm going to be generous to you guys. I'm going to treat everybody with coffee, except the killer. Unless you fly over, I can treat you one. Huh? What's wrong? You're laughing at me. Okay, we wrap it up, Keelan. Hopefully we didn't make much noise for you. Didn't scare anybody there. These people are boring, man. They don't have any joke. When you come around, change that, okay? We need some jokes, some fun time going on. So. Okay, bring our best.